welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are opening a file that I think a lot of people, they think they know.
Right.
It's a story that was just splashed across every headline, every Facebook feed, and then, of course, that massive Netflix documentary. But here's the thing. When a story gets that big that fast, we tend to memorize the bullet points.
Yeah, you get the highlights.
Exactly. And you miss the actual human machinery that's working underneath it all. We are talking, of course, about the Watts family murders of 2018.
And it is a case that has just stuck with people, I think, largely because it dismantled a very, very specific American archetype.
Yes.
You had Christopher Watts, Shanann Watts, their two beautiful little girls, Bella and Celeste, and they were living in Frederick, Colorado. To anyone just scrolling past on social media, they were like the absolute definition of the family next door.
And that phrase, the family next door, it really puts a lot of weight on this whole discussion, doesn't it?
It really does.
Because if you've seen the Netflix documentary, American Murder, it felt different from other true crime docs. It wasn't just, talking heads and reenactments.
No, it was their footage.
It was their footage. It was found footage in the truest sense. All their text messages, the police body cams, and just hours and hours of Shanann's own Facebook Live videos.
And that is such a crucial psychological component here. Shanann, through her social media, she really created this this parasocial relationship with the public, even before the tragedy.
So people felt like they knew her.
They felt like they knew her. She documented everything, the highs, her health struggles, the kids singing in the car, the vacations. It created this this digital intimacy. So when people watched that documentary, they didn't feel like they were watching a stranger. They felt like they were watching a friend.
Which makes the betrayal feel so much more personal to the viewer.
Exactly.
But that digital footprint, it's also a bit of a trap, isn't it? Because we were only seeing the curated version.
We saw the highlight reel.
The highlight reel, yeah. And the mission of this deep dive is to go into the editing room, so to speak, look at what was left on the cutting floor, and really try to understand the darkness that was simmering behind those iPhone lenses.
Precisely. We need to move past just the timeline of events and get into the pathology. And to do that, we are leaning very heavily on a specific document that I think changes the entire context of this crime.
Right. We're not just relying on news reports.
Oh, we're unpacking the 2019 interview that was conducted by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, the CBI, inside the prison.
And just to clarify for everyone listening, this is not the confession we all saw on the news back in 2018. This happened months later.
Right. A totally different thing. The 2018 confession was, it was a strategic lie. It was damage control on his part. But in February 2019, agents Tammy Lee and Graham Coder, they traveled to the prison in Wisconsin where Chris is serving his life sentence. And they sit down with him for hours. No cameras, just audio recorders. And in that environment, the mask just completely came off. He revealed his internal state, the real sequence of events and thoughts that are, frankly, terrifying in their clarity.
So it's the difference between knowing what happened and knowing what it felt like for him to make it happen.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So before we get into all the grim details, can you help us frame this psychologically? What are we dealing with here?
We are discussing the concept of the family annihilator. It's a very specific and just a harrowing category of criminality. It almost always involves a father, often the good provider type, who murders his entire family. And there's almost always a deep tension involved. It's a tension between a very carefully constructed public self and a hidden, crumbling reality. In this case, you have the digital self, the happy videos, the thriving lifestyle clashing directly with domestic friction, financial ruin, and a secret life.
And the really scary part, I think, is the disconnect in his demeanor. You watch Chris Watts in those home videos, and he just seems, he seems kind of boring.
He's passive.
He's the quiet guy in the background holding the baby. He's not the guy you see screaming or punching walls.
And that's the family next door illusion in action. We all have this bias where we assume monsters look like monsters. We assume they'll act erratic or aggressive. But Chris Watts was a nice guy. He was passive. He just went with the flow. And as we're going to see from that CBI report, that passivity wasn't a virtue. It was a vacuum. He just let things happen to him until he decided to assert control in the most destructive way possible.
So let's go back to the beginning, the foundation.
Right.
Before all the horror, there was a history. Chris is from North Carolina. Shanann was from North Carolina. They met back in 2010.
Right. Chris was about 25 when they met. He was working as a mechanic. Shanann was dealing with lupus, which is, a very serious autoimmune condition. And Chris really stepped into that caretaker role early on. He helped her organize her life. He went to her doctor's appointments. Shanann actually, well, her friends told investigators that Chris wasn't really her type initially.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he was persistent. He offered stability.
So they get married in 2012 and move to Colorado. And on paper, it looks like they're chasing the American dream. Big house in Frederick, nice neighborhood.
Yep. Chris gets a good job at Anadarko Petroleum, which is a solid blue-collar job with good pay. And Shanann was working in multi-level marketing, specifically for a company called Lavelle, selling Thrive products.
But, and this is a huge but, if we peel back that financial layer, the rot was already there. The CBI report highlights that despite this appearance of wealth, they filed for bankruptcy in 2015.
2015? Wait, that's 3 full years before the murders.
3 years, yes. And despite that bankruptcy, it's supposed to be, a reset button, they were back in the hole almost immediately.
They bought a massive 5-bedroom house that they absolutely could not afford. They had high HOA fees. By 2018, they were behind on their mortgage payments again. Shanann was apparently paying the HOA fees to the wrong address for an entire year. The financial pressure cooker was just whistling.
But Chris claimed in that big interview that he didn't know the extent of it.
Oh, right.
Right? He played ignorant.
He did. He claimed total ignorance. He said Shanann handled all the finances and he just brought home the paycheck. He said he was blind to it all.
Which fits that pattern of passivity you were talking about?
It's his whole MO. I just live here. I don't run the ship. But that also means he felt he had absolutely no control over his own financial survival.
I want to pivot for a second to the Thrive aspect.
Yeah.
Because I think in a lot of the public discussion, people kind of gloss over it. It's just Shanann's job. But in the prison interview, Chris talks a lot about using the products himself.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, something called the Duo Burn Patch.
Now, this is a detail that needs some serious unpacking because the physiology here is critical. These patches, they're transdermal delivery systems. They aren't just vitamins. They are pumping stimulants directly into your bloodstream.
Stimulants like what?
Things like caffeine, willow bark, forskolin, and Chris was wearing them constantly.
And he described a pretty intense physical reaction.
Yeah.
He wasn't just feeling like a little more perky.
Not at all. He told the agents that the patches gave him this surge of energy where he felt like he could go longer and longer. He mentioned specifically that his Apple Watch would register a really high heart rate, like he was in a workout zone, even when he was just sitting on the couch.
So his resting heart rate is just jacked all the time.
Constantly.
What about his sleep?
And this is the massive red flag. He told the agents he was sleeping about 3 hours a night.
3 hours? For how long was this going on?
For weeks leading up to the murders. And he told them he wasn't tired. He was just wired.
Okay, let's just stop there. We have to look at the biology of that. If a human being is only sleeping 3 hours a night for weeks on end, while also pumping stimulants into their system, what is actually happening to their brain?
Well, you are entering a state of severe cognitive degradation. I mean, sleep deprivation studies show that chronic restriction hits the prefrontal cortex first.
Which is the executive function part of the brain.
Exactly. It's where your impulse control, your emotional regulation, and your empathy. It's where all that lives. It's the brakes of the brain.
So you're saying he was basically chemically eroding his own ability to hit the brakes on any impulse?
I'm saying he created a physiological environment where he was likely paranoid, hyper-focused, and emotionally blunted. Now, you combine that biological state with massive financial stress and a high-stakes secret affair. You are creating a cocktail that mimics a psychotic break.
It doesn't excuse it, obviously.
No, of course not. It doesn't excuse the murder. Plenty of insomniacs don't kill their families. But it does help explain the mechanism of the snap. He was operating on a razor's edge, biologically.
And while he's walking this razor's edge, the family dynamic just completely implodes. The CBI report dives deep into this incident they call Nutgate. And I have to say, the name sounds ridiculous.
Dude, it sounds silly.
Like a tabloid headline, but the fallout from it was absolutely nuclear.
It sounds trivial, but in family systems theory, this is what you'd call a rupture event. It happened in the summer of 2018. Shanann took the girls to North Carolina to visit family for about 5 weeks. Chris stayed back in Colorado for work, at least initially.
Okay.
When they were visiting Chris's parents, there was an incident involving Celeste and her nut allergy.
And Celeste was 3.
And
Her
correct.
allergy was like life-threatening, right?
Correct, anaphylactic. Chris's mother apparently served ice cream or had chips out that contained nuts. Shanann felt it was negligent, maybe even malicious, and she just went ballistic. She felt her mother-in-law was actively endangering her child.
And this wasn't just a simple argument at the dinner table. This was a complete severance of the relationship.
A total break. Shanann stopped speaking to Chris's parents entirely. She told Chris he wasn't allowed to talk to them either. There was a text message exchange where she essentially said, "You will never see your grandchildren again."
Wow. And where was Chris in all of this?
Caught right in the kill zone, and this is so key to his psychology. He told the CBI he felt completely isolated. He had always been a mama's boy in some respects. He was very close to his dad. And suddenly, the woman he married has just cut the cord between him and his entire family of origin. He felt he had to choose sides.
And outwardly, he chose Shanann, but inwardly.
Inwardly, he was completely untethered. He lost his primary support system. He was angry at Shanann for putting him in that position. And now he's all alone in Colorado while they're still in North Carolina for weeks.
Alone in Colorado.
Yeah.
With an empty house. With the Thrive patches pumping.
And that is exactly when the catalyst enters the picture.
Let's move to the affair.
Enter Nichol Kessinger. She was a coworker of his at Anadarko Petroleum. They met around June of 2018.
The way Chris talks about this relationship in the prison interview is just fascinating. He doesn't just talk about the sex. He talks about how she made him feel about himself.
It's a classic case of limerence. That's the clinical term for that state of infatuation, the obsession with a new romantic object. Chris told the agents he felt in control with Nichol.
In control.
Yeah. He said that with Shanann, he was always the passenger. Shanann made all the decisions. Shanann was the dominant personality. But Nichol, she asked for his opinion. She'd ask him what he wanted to eat, what he wanted to do. He said he felt like he could finally be himself.
He used some really strong metaphors in that interview. He described the affair as a leash that she was using to tug him away from his family. But the one that really haunts me is the blindfold.
Oh, the blindfold comment is deeply revealing. He said, "Every time I was with her, I felt like there was a blinder in my face." He was essentially blocking out his own reality.
So when he was with her,
When he was with Nichol, the deaths didn't exist. The screaming toddlers didn't exist. The angry pregnant wife didn't exist. He was living in this complete fantasy world where he was a successful, fit, independent bachelor.
and he was acting like a bachelor.
Yeah.
He talked about experiencing firsts all over again.
Yes. While his family was away, he was actively dating Nichol. They went camping at the Great Sand Dunes. They went drag racing at Bandimere Speedway. They visited the Shelby Car Museum.
Things he liked to do.
These were things Chris loved, cars, the outdoors, but felt he couldn't do in his married life. He was test driving a completely new identity.
There's a detail from that time that just really sticks with me. He deleted his Facebook.
He did.
Now, in 2018, for a guy whose wife practically lived her entire life on Facebook, that is a massive move. Why did he do that?
He told the CBI he did it because Nichol had told her friends about him. He was terrified that her friends would look him up, find his profile, and see very, very clearly that he was married with 2 kids and a pregnant wife.
So this is active concealment. This isn't just going with the flow anymore. This is him actively erasing his family.
Exactly. And we have to talk about the discard phase here.
Yeah.
In the psychology of this kind of affair, the new partner represents the dopamine hit. The old family, they represent the stressor. Over those few weeks, his family stopped being people in his mind.
They became obstacles.
They became obstacles. They were just the things standing in the way of the high he was getting from Nichol.
He even admitted that Nichol was looking up apartments for him. They were actually planning a future together.
They were. And you have to remember, all this is happening while Shanann is pregnant. She was 15 weeks pregnant with their 3rd child, a boy they were going to name Nico.
Wow.
Chris admitted in the interview that when he found out about the pregnancy, he wasn't excited, he was scared. Because a baby is an anchor. It locked him into the old life just as he was desperately trying to float away into the new one.
So let's fast forward. The morning of August 13th. The catalyst has been engaged. The cracks in the foundation are wide open. Shanann returns home from a business trip to Arizona.
It's 1:48 a.m. Her friend, Nicole Atkinson, drops her off. We have that grainy doorbell camera footage of Shanann walking up to the door. It is the last time she is ever seen alive.
In the initial investigation, Chris lied about everything that happened next. But in that 2019 prison interview, He walks the agents through the bedroom scene. And it's just disturbing in its intimacy.
It's deeply disturbing. He claims that when Shanann got into bed, she was the one who initiated sex, and he engaged with her.
Which just seems insane, given that he was already planning to leave her. Why would he do that?
He described it to the agents as a test. He said he felt strange doing it. He called it a trigger point or like pushing a button on a bomb.
A test for what?
He was checking to see if there was any spark left, any connection at all. And he realized in the act that there was nothing. For him, it was the final confirmation that he was completely done.
So they fall asleep. Or at least he says they did. That he wakes her up.
He wakes her up to tell her it's over. He tells her he doesn't love her anymore. He tells her they aren't compatible.
And this is where the story pivots to the act of violence itself. He's straddling her on the bed. She's crying. She realizes there must be someone else. And she says something to him.
According to Chris's account, Shanann says, "You're never going to see the kids again."
And that was the trigger.
That was the moment he claims he snapped. He says he just put his hands around her neck. But here, this is where we have to stop and apply the science. We hear the word snapped, and we think of a split-second reaction, like throwing a punch.
Right.
But strangulation doesn't work that way. It's not instantaneous.
Because he said he couldn't let go.
Right. He told the agents, why couldn't I just let go? But strangulation takes, on average, 2 to 4 minutes to cause death. 2 to 4 minutes.
Let's just sit with that for a second. That is 120 to 240 seconds.
Count to 10 in your head right now. It feels like a long time. Now imagine doing that 12 times over or more. He had minutes to stop. He had minutes to look at her face, to see the fear, to think about the son that she was carrying. And he sustained that pressure. That is not a snap. That is a decision being made over and over and over again, second by second.
He also mentioned a thought he had before it happened. He said it felt like the idea was implanted in his mind.
Implanted, like it was premeditated, but he wants to distance himself from the ownership of the idea. It's a way of deflecting responsibility. He said he woke up that morning knowing it was going to happen. That directly contradicts the idea of a sudden rage. It suggests a grim inevitability. He knew the only way out was through them.
And then,
Yeah.
that was the most harrowing part of the 2019 confession. In his original story, the one he told his dad, he said he killed Shanann in a rage because she killed the kids.
Yes.
That was a story the entire world lived with for months.
A complete and total lie.
In the 2019 interview, he finally reveals that after he killed Shanann, Bella walked into the room.
Bella, his 4-year-old daughter, she walked into their bedroom holding her blanket. She saw her mother's body wrapped in a sheet on the bed, and she asked, "What's wrong with Mommy?"
This changes everything. The children were alive.
They were alive, and this leads us to the section of the story that is just the hardest to get through. The drive.
We really need to slow down here, because this isn't just a transport. This is a journey into hell.
It is.
He loads Shanann's body into the floorboard of his work truck. And then he puts his 2 living daughters, Bella and Celeste, into the back seat.
Just try to imagine the sensory experience inside that truck. It's dark, it's early morning. He's driving to the Anadarko oil site, a place called Cervini 319. It is a 45-minute drive.
45 minutes. Most of us can't handle a 45-minute commute with traffic. He is driving with his murdered wife at his feet and his living children sitting right behind him. And they are talking to him.
Bella complained about the smell. She said, "Daddy, it smells." Because after death, Shanann's body had released its bowels. It's the biological reality of death. The smell would have been overpowering in that small cab.
And Chris, what did he do?
He just drove. He told the CBI he was on autopilot.
Yeah.
He said he wasn't thinking. But I challenged that. He was navigating. He was obeying traffic laws. He was planning the disposal. This is profound dissociation.
How does the human mind even do that? How do you not just pull over, turn the car around, do something?
It's a psychological break called depersonalization. He had already crossed the Rubicon when he killed Shanann. In his mind, the family was already gone. He wasn't seeing them as his daughters anymore. He was seeing them as loose ends. He was in task mode. Transport, dispose, finish.
So they get to the oil site. He buries Shanann first.
In a shallow grave. He noted specifically in the interview that the ground was hard. He actually broke the rake he was using. He was frustrated by it.
And the girls are just watching this.
They're in the truck. They're watching him dig a hole. They asked him, "What are you doing to Mommy?" Oh, my God.
That's true. And he goes back to the truck. He takes Celeste, Cece first. She was 3 years old. He used her own blue Yankees blanket to smother her.
And Bella's sitting right there.
Bella's sitting right next to her. She watches her father kill her little sister. Then he takes Celeste's body, and we have to be graphic here because the cruelty is the entire point. He takes her to the oil tanks.
The hatch size.
The hatch opening was only 8 inches in diameter. 8 inches. A standard sheet of paper is 8.5 inches wide.
Yeah.
He had to physically force those little bodies through that hole.
Jesus.
He dropped Celeste into one tank. Then he went back to the truck for Bella.
And Bella.
She knew what was coming.
She knew. She was 4, but she was smart. She asked him, is the same thing going to happen to me as Cece?
Oh, no.
And her final words to him, words he claims he hears every single night in his cell were, Daddy, no.
That is the sound of absolute betrayal. Daddy, no.
And he did it anyway. He smothered her. And he put her in the other tank. He separated the entire family. Shanann in the ground. Celeste in one tank. Bella in another. He told the CBI later, I was angry at Shanann and I took it out on the kids. It was an act of total annihilation. He didn't just kill them, he submerged them in crude oil. He wanted them to disappear completely. He wanted to wash them out of existence.
And then he gets back in his truck and just drives away.
Like nothing happened. He ate a sandwich later that day.
That leads us right into the cover-up. Because this is where the whole mastermind theory just completely falls apart. He drives away and the mask goes back on. But it doesn't fit right anymore.
No, it's slipping immediately. He does things that make absolutely no sense for a grieving or worried husband. He calls the girls' school to unenroll them.
Wait, hold on. He called the school that morning. The same morning.
That same morning, before anyone had even reported them missing.
That is just idiotic. If you were pretending your wife took the kids to a play date or something, why on earth would you unenroll them from school?
Because he was just checking things off a to-do list in his head. In his mind, they were gone. He was cutting ties. Sell house, cancel school, start new life. He wasn't simulating grief. He was executing a logistical plan. He also called a realtor to discuss selling the house.
It's so transactional. It's like he was cleaning out a closet to make room for new stuff.
Exactly. But he made a critical error. He fell victim to what we call the narcissist's error. He completely underestimated the intelligence and intuition of the people around him.
He thought he was smarter than everyone else.
He thought he could just say they left and everyone would believe him because he's good guy Chris. He did not account for Nichol Atkinson.
Shanann's friend. She is the hero of this story, without a doubt.
She really is. She knew Shanann's routine intimately. Shanann didn't answer her texts. She missed a doctor's appointment. Nichol didn't wait 24 hours to file a report. She went to the house. She called the police. She forced Chris's hand.
She knew something was wrong.
Immediately. If not for her, he might have had days to cover his tracks. But because of her, the police were there by that afternoon.
And we have all that body cam footage of him arriving home to help the police. He's running around opening doors.
It's just acting. And it's bad acting. He was doing what he thought a worried husband should do, but there was no genuine emotion behind it. He was sweating profusely. He was fidgeting. And then he did the porch interview.
Ah, yes. The famous interview with the news stations. He's standing there, arms crossed, kind of swaying back and forth.
Experts analyze that footage constantly. There's something called duping delight. It's a subtle smirk that happens when a liar thinks they're getting away with it.
And you see flashes of it?
You see flashes of it, but mostly you see a flat effect. He talks about them in the past tense. He says, I want them back, but his eyes are just dead. He wasn't crying. He wasn't frantic. He was just blank.
So the police, obviously, they are not buying this story at all. The FBI gets involved. The CBI gets involved. They bring him in for a polygraph test.
Which he fails, just miserably. He scored a -18, which is a number that strongly implies deception.
And then comes the interrogation room. Agents Tammy Lee and Graham Coder. And they were just masterful.
They were. They used this technique where they essentially dismantled his reality, piece by piece. But the key moment, the turning point, was when he asked to speak to his father, Ronnie Watts.
His dad was in the building at the time.
He was. They had brought him in. Chris asked for him. And in that room, with just his dad, he admitted that he killed Shanann. But, and this is the crucial manipulative part, he blamed her. He told his dad, she hurt the kids. I killed her because she killed them.
Why did he choose that specific lie? It seems so calculated.
Because the agents gave it to him. It's a very common technique called minimization. In an interrogation, investigators will offer a suspect a moral out. They'll say things like, did you do something to hurt the kids? Were you defending them? We know you're not a monster.
They give him a more palatable story to tell.
Exactly. They provide a narrative where the suspect can confess to the act but deny the malicious intent. and Chris latched onto that immediately. It allowed him to confess to the murder of his wife while trying to maintain some twisted moral high ground as the avenging father.
It's just the height of cowardice.
It's incredibly cowardly. He tarnished her memory, the mother of his children, just to try and save his own skin. He let the world believe for weeks that Shanann, a truly devoted mother, had murdered her own children.
But eventually the evidence was just too strong. He pleaded guilty to all counts.
He had to. The GPS in his work truck placed him at the oil site for the exact amount of time needed. The bodies were found exactly where he eventually said they were. He pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty in Colorado.
Which brings us to the final chapter, Reflections from Prison. He's serving multiple life sentences without parole. And in 2019, the CBI goes back to talk to him. What does his life even look like now?
It's a strange, paradoxical existence. He told the agents he has photos of Shanann and the girls up in his cell.
Wait. He keeps photos of the people he murdered in his prison cell.
He does. He tossed to them. He reads a book to his deceased daughters every single night. He reads them the same book he used to read to Celeste. He mixes it with scripture.
That is, I don't even know what the word for that is. It feels completely delusional.
It's a way of compartmentalizing. He has separated the Chris who killed them from the Chris who loves them. He speaks as if it was some dark force that took him over. He calls it a dark shadow.
He mentioned that in the interview. He said he felt possessed by rage.
He said, "I'm not the monster." He's trying to externalize the evil. He's saying he couldn't control it. But again, that completely contradicts his own statements about the premeditation, that implanted idea. He wants to be the victim of his own rage, rather than the author of it.
And then there's the fan mail.
Yes. This is a very disturbing phenomenon in true crime. He receives letters from women all over the world. Some of it is hate mail, of course, calling him a monster. But many are romantic. Women who think he's misunderstood. Women who want to save him.
It's that Ted Bundy effect.
Hybristophilia, a clinical attraction to those who commit crimes. Chris seems sort of baffled by it, but also a little flattered. He talked about one woman who wrote to him 4 times a week. It just feeds that deep-seated narcissism that was there all along.
In that 2019 interview, he does finally officially clear Shanann's name.
He did, and that was the most important thing for the Rosdick family, Shanann's parents. They had been dealing with these horrible internet trolls calling Shanann abusive or a narcissist because of Chris's initial lie. In 2019, Chris admitted she was a good mother. He admitted she wasn't abusive. He admitted there was no domestic violence until the moment he killed her.
He also reflected on the Thrive patches again, didn't he?
He did. He wonders if the patches played a role. He wonders if he would have snapped if he wasn't so sleep-deprived. He's constantly looking for these external reasons. Was it the patches? Was it the affair? Was it the finances?
And the real answer is probably all of the above.
It's a convergence of factors. But we have to be very clear. Plenty of people go bankrupt. Plenty of people have affairs. Plenty of people have overbearing in-laws. They don't put their children in oil tanks. The missing piece is Chris himself. His profound lack of empathy, his inability to confront conflict in any kind of a healthy way. He chose the most destructive path possible because it was the only way he could see to just delete his problems.
It's the fresh start fallacy. He thought if he just got rid of the old life, the new life would just begin, clean slate. He didn't realize the old life consisted of human beings.
He treated them like objects, like debts to be canceled or furniture to be thrown out. And that is the true horror of the family annihilator. The family becomes disposable property.
So, after all this,
What
does this all mean for us? We started this by talking about the illusion, the curated digital life.
I think that's the big lingering lesson here. We rely so much on social media to understand the people around us. We see the posts, the smiles, the perfect families. But those posts are advertisements. They're not documentaries. The reality of the Watts home was financial terror, emotional isolation, and a husband who was actively checking out of his own marriage.
It really makes you wonder how well we truly know anyone. Chris Watts was the quiet one, the nice neighbor, the guy who would help you fix your car.
And that's the provocative thought I'd want to leave our listeners with. We often look for the monster to have fangs. We expect them to be angry, violent men with long criminal records. Chris Watts had no criminal record. He was polite. He was the family next door.
Yeah.
The capacity for this kind of evil can hide behind a very banal, very ordinary mask.
And perhaps that's why this case haunts us so much. It wasn't a stranger in a dark alley. It was the man sleeping in the bed next door.
Oh, precisely.
It is a heavy one today. But it's important, I think, to understand the reality behind the headlines, to understand that the monster isn't always who we think it is.
Yeah. and to remember Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, not just as victims in a Netflix documentary, but as real people who deserved a future that was stolen from them.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. We will see you on the next Deep Dive.